High performance teams start with mindset. And we know in general, most great things start from the top. Every leader's dream is to have a high performance team. These teams have strong commitment to personal excellence, a positive attitude, and are willing to take calculated risks to achieve success. But what does it take to create such team? It starts with leaders adopting a high performance mentality. So today we have with us one of our speakers, faculty members. We have Porrick Berry, who is a trainer and a business advisor and coach with a lifelong interest in human and business mindsets improvement. He's the CEO of TTI Success Insights Ireland, and he has specific expertise in leadership development, team building, and strategy development. Porrick, we are excited for what you're going to talk about with us today.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Porrick Berry, and I'm very happy to be here with you this evening to talk about the whole idea of building high-performance mindset at an individual, team, and organizational level. So thank you for being here. And before I'm going to share my screen a few minutes, and I'm going to pop up a mind map and work my way through it. But before I do, I'd just like to make a few opening comments. The first one is that my specific area of interest is human performance improvement. Specifically, it's sort of a combination of a number of different things. And I'm a great believer in habit. I really believe in the idea of building habits. So a theme through everything I'm talking about today will be the idea of developing of habit formation, but particular kinds of habit formation at an individual and a team level. I'm also a great believer in process. And I believe that if you put process in place, good process in place, that makes habits, that builds habits. So processes for me in organizations are habits. They're just organizational habits. And so I'm going to be talking a lot about this, or this broad concept as I go through it today. Now, you won't get lost today, I guarantee you, because I'll have a map up there I'm going to share it with you now. And as I go through the presentation, I will expand the various parts of the map so that you can actually see what I'm talking about. So there's three things I really want to address today. I want to talk about the 10 keys to create a steadfast, and I mean steadfast. So again, I'm back to my idea of habits, a steadfast high performance mentality. I believe that willpower, just for the sake of this argument, willpower is a question of how much sugar you have in your bloodstream. And habits are a much better way of building something that is steadfast and enduring than willpower. The second thing I want to talk about is what is the best practice for building a high performance team. Now, there's going to be nothing new in any of this stuff that I'm sharing with you today. You'll have heard all of this before, but perhaps just not organized the way I'm going to organize it. And the third thing and final thing, sort of the takeaway from today, is my idea of magic bullets, the magic bullet habits you need to reach your full potential. Now, we all know unfortunately, there are no magic bullets, but this is as close as we can get. I'm a great believer in the 80-20 rule, that if we can focus on the 20% of the things that give us the 80% results, we have a good chance of succeeding. And that's really what these habits are about. So let's start with the first thing. And we just remember how to develop a mindset that commits to continuous improvement, seeks out new challenges, embraces change, and cultivates resilience within your team. So it's not just developing a mindset, it's developing a very particular kind of mindset. So let's have a look, see where we start. And we start with, I've got 10 things here for creating a steadfast, high performance mentality. And they are: be mindful, build resilience into your life, generate energy, watch your attitude, build success habits, set smart goals, understand your deliverables, hold yourself and others accountable, be a team player, and building muscle. And that's the shortest one. There's only one line in building muscle when I get there. So let's start and look at the first one. So we talk about being mindful. So what are we talking about? We're talking about what can I do today to practice self-awareness, to take control of my thoughts, to stay focused on the present moment, and how can I use a growth journal to help me build awareness. Now, I'm a really big believer in practicing self-reflection. We all know the see, do, get model. I see the world a certain way, I act a certain way, I get a certain result, and it tends to be a closed loop that reinforces our belief system. Reflection to me is where it's all at. You reflect, you notice what happens, and you change what you're doing. So my idea of practicing self-reflection, I'm a great believer in journaling. And you can see that I've highlighted in red. It's really important to remind yourself, what are you trying to achieve? So if you want a high performance mindset, you need to get out of the weeds. It's very, very easy to get sucked up, particularly if you're trying to drive a business forward, if you're a leader. It's very easy to get sucked up and caught in the weeds of detail and forget why you're actually doing what you're doing. And a lot of the energy that you will generate as a high performance team member, be you the leader or a team member, will come from a sense of purpose. So you need to get journal, I think, to understand what makes you happy, sad, what worked, what didn't work. Am I getting what I want? So Jill and Steve, your triangle of choice, what is that except a reflection exercise where you stop and you look and you reflect and you ask yourself very, very simple and powerful questions. So in your book, Leadership Simple, you describe that really, really well. And I love that book, as you know, I've said that to you many, many times, because of this reflective exercise, which very few people actually do. So journaling to me is a really, really important exercise or habit to form if you want to develop a high performance mindset. Now, I journal, for example. I journal. And in my journaling, for example, I write down 3 things I'm grateful for. I write down 3 affirmations and 3 things that will make my day great. So I write these down in my journal every day. I also do a stream of consciousness exercise, 3 pages every morning, where I just do a stream of consciousness. And what's really interesting about that is if I go back here to, am I getting what I want? What can I focus on that brings me a sense of connection and fulfillment? Well, if I actually do a stream of consciousness, I can see clearly what is holding me back and find creative solutions to actually bring me forward and bring me through these. So this journey, this practice self-reflection, this journey to me is really, really important. And it helps build more resilience in your life. So let's look at this one. Build more resilience. What do I habitually tell myself when I experience self-doubt or disappointment or feel that I'm failing? Really, really interesting question. What makes me confident and how can I turn on confidence when I need it? So I just think this thing of building resilience into your life, these 2 questions are really, really important. And for example, take care of your physical, mental, and emotional, spiritual health. Time for self-care. When I journal every day, I record the time I get up, my weight, and whether I meditated twice a day, whether I did my stretches, my push-ups, my workout, my run, my diet, and my high-performance mindset exercises. So I journal this every day. Did I do them? Did I not do them? I tick the box. So I think this thing of building resilience into your life, journaling is a really important element of it. Talking about the taking care of your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health, and so on, I really believe in keystone habits. And I think that these habits I'm going to talk about here are really important. A sleep schedule, early to bed and early to rise. I don't care what anyone says, I think it's one of the most powerful things you can do. You don't drink a bottle of wine at 5 in the morning, but you may easily drink it at 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. So if you go to bed early, you're not wasting time. You get up early, you tend to be energized, you tend to be fresh, and you tend to get on with doing things. I really believe in exercise and the power of exercise, stretching, weights, cardiovascular, particularly as you grow older. Really important to do all of these. A healthy diet, intermittent fasting, and managing your carbs particularly, and sugar, I mean, the great poison of our age. Developing a strong network, having a strong network of people around you. Identifying practices and interests that keep you happy. For example, I love to ride my motorbike. So I have a motorbike, I tour my motorbike, I do this. So having these interests is really, really important. And a sense of purpose, I'm going to come back to this in great detail, finding a sense of purpose, identifying your passion and working towards it. For me, it's becoming all I can be, but people need to have this sense of passion to build resilience. So when things get tough and things go up and things go down, they say, that's okay, I know where I'm going, there will be setbacks, there will be things I need to address. So they're simple things for me in building resilience. And this sort of naturally leads into generating energy. So when I have simple questions here that I like to ask, when you're under pressure or a near-term deadline, how do you maintain or protect your well-being? Because that's when it typically crumbles. What can I do today, this week, this quarter to keep my brain, body healthy, fit, well cared for? What is the current satisfaction in these areas? What's working well? What habits would I like to change? So they're the first ones. Be mindful, build resilience, generate energy. And when I look at this and I say, watch your attitude, you'll recall that I talked about up here 3 things that I do in my journal every day. One is I write down gratitude, 3 things I'm grateful for. I cannot overemphasize the importance of this in a high performance mentality. The gratitude principle to me is perhaps the most important principle that a high performance individual or team can adopt, recognizing and being grateful for what you have. And for me personally, it was a transformative thing for me and my own personal development as a human being. So simple questions. What's the one thing I'll do today to develop a positive attitude? What mindsets do I choose to adopt? I mean, I really believe, by the way, in the whole idea of the stories we tell ourselves, how we interpret and explain things to ourselves. We can choose how we respond to circumstances, and a high performance mindset really does choose its responses. So what can I do to focus on solutions, not problems, stay adaptable? What can I do today to surround myself with positive influences? How can I increase my belief in myself? What recurring thoughts or affirmations do I purposely say? And again, going back here to my journaling, I write down my gratitude, 3 things I'm grateful for each day. I write down 3 affirmations and 3 things that will make my day great. And it really helps in building the kind of attitude that you want to build. And the next one, and number 5 on my list, is build success habits. Now, I've talked about these a moment ago. And again, for example, the ones I talked about up there, you see here, the exercise habits. But this thing of keystone habits, habits that ripple out, are critical. It's interesting. I talk to people sometimes and they talk about how do you do this, how do you do that, how do you do the other. And I remember getting up once and going for a run at about 5 o'clock in the morning in the pouring rain in the middle of winter. And I met the local farmer. And he looked at me and he said, what are you doing up out running at 5 o'clock in the morning? I said, well, I have a busy day and I wanted to get my run in. And he said, but if it was me, if I could, I have to get up. If I could, I'd stay in bed. And I said, but you don't understand. I said, it's easier for me to get up than it is to stay in bed because I've formed the habit of getting up. And it's a keystone habit that launches you into the day. It doesn't need willpower. It doesn't need anything. It's just a habit you form. So I really believe in high performance mindset and high performance mentality and high performance teams, developing keystone habits. And we'll talk about this in a moment, like Patrick Leone's 5 dysfunctions of a team, for example. The kind of habits you need to form in a team. There are keystone habits that ripple out and help a team become, or help an individual team become effective. What habits have you started and discarded? What habits have that always seem to work? Which habits get you quick wins? So building success habits to me is really, really important. And then I look at set SMART goals. So again, if you look back up here at the links, I review weekly. So in my journal, I actually review once a week my goals. I look at my lifetime plan. I look at my 36-month plan, this year's plan, and this quarter. So I review it once a week. And I say what's actually going on in terms of my SMART goals. I focus on the long term. Again, we mentioned earlier here, talking about a sense of purpose, identifying a source of purpose and passion. I really believe in focusing on the long term. So if you want to set SMART goals, they have to be contextualized. And if you will, and you will have failures, and it's just the nature of life. Things work, things don't work. So it's really important to contextualize them in terms of the long game. So stay focused on your vision, stay true to yourself, stay focused on what you want, focus on progress, not perfection. And then back from the future planning, again, 2, 1, 4, 3, where am I now? 2, 1, where have I come from? 4, where do I want to get to? And 3, how will I get there? So 1, 2, 3, 4, the past, the present, the next steps in the future, but 2, 1, 4, 3. So back from the future planning. So again, are goals clear? Are they realistic? Take action on your ideas. Nothing motivates like success. And success is action, because what's the definition of success? We all know the famous definition. Success is the progressive realization of a predetermined, worthwhile personal goal. It's a thing of the present moment, i.e. we're ticking a box. We're actually taking an action. Success is taking actions moving you towards your goals. Take time to reflect on your progress. Again, going back up to the journal, that you're sitting down here in your journaling exercise and you're actually reflecting on progress. What's working, what isn't working. I wrote down here something I think is really, really important. When people talk about high performance mindset at an individual level, at a team level, at an organizational level, they tend to get wrapped up in planning. I'm not a great believer in planning because I think that people over plan. They're planning out budgets for 10 years' time when we don't know what's going to happen in 10 days' time. So I'm a great believer in keeping the detail appropriate to the level. So I just wrote down here, don't over plan. Just ask yourself the question, how can I measure progress? So know where you are, know where you want to get to. Cobble, and I use the word advisedly, cobble, put a plan together, move into action, notice what happens, I reflect, get back to our reflection process again, change the plan and repeat, wash and repeat. So, I really believe in this process, keeping planning simple. People get all wrapped up on this, and I think really and truly, just go down into the weeds on it. Understanding your deliverables, a key element of high performance mindset. If you don't know your deliverables, how can you have a high performance mindset? How can you say, here's what I want to accomplish, here's where I want to go? So I'm a really, really strong believer in benchmarking your role, understand your key accountabilities, matching yourself, the TTI exercise, matching yourself to your role, making sure you have your gap report, make sure you have a development plan that you're building it, focusing on strengths, really, really believe it. And I brought down here a really interesting quote. I'm not sure where I lifted this from. If you had to discern 3 things that make you successful, and you knew you could deploy only those 3 again in your next major project, what would those 3 things be? It's a really interesting question. So you have a major project coming up and you can only deploy 3 things. What were the 3 things that have made you most successful historically that you would deploy? It's a really, really powerful question to try and help yourself understand. And then likewise, understand your deliverables. What can I do to help and support my colleagues? Well, again, that links me down here to hold yourself and others accountable. And the first comment I make here, in a high performance team, you're not responsible for your colleagues. There's a certain arrogance, I think, in us that we think we're responsible for other people. We're responsible for their lives. We're responsible for their performance. We're responsible for how they feel, think, whatever. We're not. They're adults. We're not responsible for them. I think it's really important to step back from this and recognize a big difference between accountability and taking responsibility for another human being in their life and their performance. So hold yourself and others accountable. How can I stay accountable? Take responsibility for my actions and learn from my failures. How can I more effectively hold my colleagues accountable? Again, going back to the benchmark. Are we clear about the deliverables of each individual? Does everybody understand everybody else's deliverables? Have we got it up on the wall instead of an organization chart? Have we got A4 sheets that say, there's Porrick, this is his job, and here are the deliverables of the role? Why this role exists and what we expect this role to accomplish. And does everybody else see that organization chart up on the wall there with everybody's roles and everybody's deliverables? So we know exactly what the team everybody in the team is supposed to be delivering, as opposed to what we think they're supposed to be delivering, or what I think and somebody else thinks something different, and somebody else thinks something different again. And this links into be a team player. So what can I do to improve communications with my colleagues, build better awareness, and so on? All these typical questions that we ask around this area. And I believe that the key to this, and we'll talk about this in a moment, building the high performance team, but asking these kind of questions and getting the team to buy into the concept of profiling themselves, for example, understanding their behavioral styles, how they communicate and interact with the world, understanding their motivators, their driving forces, what they value, what's important to them, understanding the strengths that they have, the competencies and skills that they have, and how that plays out in the team. Interestingly, Davina, I've heard you talk a number of times about diversity in teams. And I'm a great believer in diversity. We need diversity. I mean, think of a football team. If everybody was a quarterback, we'd have a problem. So we need a diversity on the team. But to do that, we have conflict. We talked about this in one of the coaching questions, Davina. And so you have to understand, if you're going to have diversity in the team, if you're going to have different skill sets that the different roles and the different deliverables on the team require, then you're going to have diversity, you're going to have conflict. So you need to manage this. How can you be a team player? How do you communicate? How do you work together? How do you understand each other's values and so on? And the last one is building a muscle. And that's a very short one. Rest is the key. Anybody who's ever worked out knows that when somebody's working out in the gym, the secret is not actually when you're lifting the weights. The secret is what happens in the following 24 hours when you rest and you build the muscle. And I put it in there because a lot of people who are focused on high performance don't rest. They work too hard. They don't rest. They don't take time out. And they wonder then why they are exhausted and why it doesn't work for them. So I'm a great believer in rest. Take a break. Give yourself a break. Go out and have dinner. Go for a run. Take a day off. High performance mentality requires space. It requires you to take a rest and you step back. So there are my thoughts, if you wish, on the 10 keys to create a high performance or a steadfast high performance mentality. Now, I want to jump over. I'm just going to close that one down for a moment, make a little bit of room here. I want to jump over here and say, okay, if that is true, how does that play out in the context of building a high performance team? And the things are almost the exact same. It's the same stuff, just sort of repeated, but a different way. So, for example, we know Patrick Leone's 5 dysfunctions of a team. So absence of trust has been the foundation dysfunction. We need to be consistent, foster a sense of accountability, and communicate the vision. Well, we've talked about that already at the individual level. Avoidance of conflict. We need to recognize the importance of conflict, understand and communicate our conflict style, get to know other people's profiles and conflicts, look for opportunities, and so on. So again, the things we talked about earlier actually apply here in terms of the dysfunction of a team, making sure we have a high function team. Lack of commitment, making sure each member feels valued. Volunteer involvement works best. Build clarity around roles and responsibilities. Foster a sense of trust. Stretch your team. Again, all the things we talked about earlier at the individual level, they play out here the exact same way. Lack of accountability. Developing a sense of shared purpose. Create specific, clearly defined goals and objectives for the end result. Focus on the positives, and so on. Again, the exact same things we talked about on an individual level, just played out here a little bit differently for the team. And the last one, of course, we lead. So with the absence of trust, there's avoidance of conflict. The avoidance of conflict is a lack of commitment. With a lack of a commitment, there's a lack of accountability. And with a lack of accountability, there's an inattention to results. So, if we follow his model in building a high-functioning team, we start with the absence of trust and we build trust. Then we have the positive conflict, we build commitment, we build accountability, and we get the results that we're looking for. So I just put him in there because I really like his particular model. And I think it's really, really important. If people were to study one thing only about building a high performance team and incorporating those elements I mentioned over here in the 10 keys to creating a steadfast high performance mentality, I would recommend Patrick Lencioni's model, that's something people should study, because I think it's really, really helpful. Okay, what else? Define clear goals. We've said this already, haven't we? There's nothing new here. We benchmark the key accountabilities, the deliverables of the team, that turns into goals and objectives and things that people have to accomplish. We recruit the right people. Well, again, we're back at coming up with the key accountabilities, benchmarking the role and getting the job person match, hiring the right people for the roles. Nobody does this, by the way. It's really quite remarkable. I mean, nobody does this. I mean, I work with companies and they just will not invest the time and effort. They'll invest time and effort in buying a new photocopier, but they won't invest time and effort in hiring the right person and understanding what the role really is. And if you want a high performance team, you have to match people to the roles. Foster open communication, that's a no-brainer. Encourage collaboration, ditto. Provide ongoing feedback and recognition. I really am a huge believer in this. I believe in the importance of feedback and feed forward. People want it, they need it, it needs to be done properly. And if it is done properly, I think it works very, very well. Foster a learning mindset. I actually picked this one up from a client of mine who's a really great student. And he had a problem with somebody working in the organization because he said the guy doesn't want to learn. The guy already has all the answers. He doesn't want to learn. He's not receptive and open to new ideas. He doesn't want to grow and develop, really. So I think this idea of a learning mindset is really, really important in a high performance team. They have to be students. We all have to recognize that. I'm quoting I think a Republican, I think it was Cheney or Rumsfeld, one of them said, and what the known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns. And in a learning mindset, really and truly, the first thing you acknowledge is what you don't know. The second thing you acknowledge is the whole lot of stuff you don't even know you don't know. So you're a student and you're open to development and growth. Empowered decision-making, again, I don't need to say anything about that. You know exactly what that is. It's actually genuinely letting people make decisions and make mistakes. Simple as that. We delegate appropriately. We allow them to make decisions and make mistakes. Setting high standards and holding everybody accountable. Fostering a positive work environment and leading by example. So the best practice for building a high-performance team, there you have them. And that brings me to the magic bullet habits you need to reach your full intention. And I'm going to pop up here the notes. If you want to change the world, change yourself. We all know this. It's a cliche, but I think perhaps it's the single most important thing that a leader can do, and somebody who wants to develop a high performance mindset can do. You'll have to look in the mirror. I think, Davina, again, we were talking about this in one of the Ask a Coach exercises. We have met the enemy. It is us, or he is us. That was the from 1971, that cartoonist. And I think it's really important that we take personal accountability. We recognize that we are responsible. We're responsible for what's going on. Nobody else is responsible. We are 100% responsible for what's going on. And if you embrace that as a concept, and you recognize, irrespective of whether you're doing something or somebody's doing something to you, or the environment is doing it, or the world is doing it, if you take full responsibility for your response, for how you deal with it, for how you feel about it, for how you explain it to yourself, for the story you're telling yourself, if you take responsibility for that, then you can actually take action. But if you're pointing out and saying it's the world, it's my wife, it's my husband, it's my boss, it's somebody else, if you're pointing out, then you're powerless. There's nothing you can do. So the single most important thing is to look in the mirror, take full responsibility and say, what part am I playing? What control do I have over this? And what can I do about it? The second is focus. I think goals are helpful to the extent they determine our direction. They're less helpful when we get attached to them. And this is really, really important. So folks, I'm a great believer in focus, but remember, we've no control over outcomes. And I want to read a little thing down here. You'll see the text down the side. I want to read this to you because this was actually sent to me by my coach a number of years ago. And I've read this so many times. And he said this, I had a meeting with him, and good coach that he was. He listened attentively and I talked for 45 minutes. And then when I finished telling him my life story and everything that was working and wasn't working, he asked me the one question that I needed to be asked. And I went, oh, right. And I left. But when I got back to the office, there was an email waiting for me from him. And this was the email. He said, Pádraig, remember, the safest place to be when assailed by endless opportunities is with a clearly defined, immovable personal objective. The powers of the universe conspire to help the man who knows where he is going. Otherwise, they disperse in confusion, leading to an erosion of confidence. Your excellent self-analysis has led you to a place not everyone finds, with the energy and talent to realize your best self. So simply crystallize it, visualize it, measure it out, and you must succeed. When you do this, all doubt will go, all distractions will be swept aside, and all your wonderful energy will be channeled efficiently to a single aim. The beauty in this is that you escape the dominion of the past. For the moment you decide and take the first step, you are successful. Enjoy this progressive success, for when any objective is fulfilled, it is over. I will stand back and watch you go. Now, I cannot tell you how many times I've read that email. I've saved it in innumerable folders. It's an inspiring email about the power of focus. But the key here is we've no control over outcomes, just inputs. It's not the outputs we control, it's the inputs. We don't know what's going to happen. So the focus and the definition of success, is, as we said before, is the progressive realization of a predetermined, worthwhile personal goal. It's a thing of the present moment. It's about the actions, the activities that we take. So remember what I said before? Know where you are, know where you want to go. Cobble together a plan. Take action. High performance mindset people take action, move into action. Notice what happens. Go back to the journey, the reflection. Notice what happens. Change the plan. Move into action again. So focus to me is very important, but not to get attached to the goals. Rather, to get attached to moving to action and allow things to unfold and change the plan. And the journey, in reality, there's nothing but the journey. The right thing to do next, the activities, the lead dominoes to knock down the line of dominoes. What's the lead domino? If we do our very best in the activities, then our goals become directional signs, nothing more. And so I'm a really good believer in knocking down the dominoes, lining up the dominoes. It's interesting. There's a great video clip that you can look at of Professor Clark from some Canadian university. And he lined up the dominoes. The first one is about a couple of millimeters thick and maybe a centimeter high. And the 13th is 50 kilos and a big block. And it just shows how one domino can knock down something 1.5 times the size. And the secret in Back from the Future planning and the journey is you identify the end goal, you identify what you want to accomplish, and then you line up the dominoes back. Well, to get that, what do I need to do? To get that, what do I need to do? And so on, until you've got one little domino in front of you to knock them down. And every day you just knock down the dominoes. It's the activities and you focus on that. Do your best. One of my favorite things in the Magic Bullet is do your best, because if you do your best, you will never look back with recrimination and regret. That's really, really important. I wrote down here, all we should ever try to focus on is what we do, not the outcome. We should always ask ourselves, are we doing the things that actually matter? And then, are we truly doing our best? And if we are, the rest is the hands of the gods. It's as simple as that. We've no control over it. It's an illusion, complete illusion. So high performance people have, one of the magic bullets they have is they recognize this and they focus, am I doing my best genuinely? And if you are, away you go. And no matter what happens, you can say, well, I did my best. I gave it everything I had, best thinking, best efforts at the time. Action to me is critical. I've said it before, I say it again. As John Ruskin said long ago, what we think or what we know or what we believe in isn't the end of little consequence. The only consequence is what we do. So I wrote on that, action raises self-esteem and performance, creating a virtuous cycle of success. It helps your thinking. We get information and helps us clarify our thinking. And clarity of thoughts allows us to be economical with our energy and wise with our actions. It exposes obstacles so we can develop strategies to overcome them. It brings luck. My old chairman, Chuck Feeney, wonderful, wonderful man. And he used to always talk about luck, laboring under correct knowledge. So he always said that he found the harder he worked, the luckier he became. And we all know the old saying, execution is the charge of genius. Plans themselves are useless unless they're agents for action. So high performance mindset is all about action, taking action. How do I move into action? What's the appropriate action? And I wrote down there, last thing I said, it is good to dream, you all know this, but it's better to dream and work. Faith is mighty, but action with faith is mightier. Desiring is helpful, but work and desire are invincible. Great quote from Thomas Robert Gaines. I've already spoken about practicing gratitude. I won't go through it again. I believe that it is one of the single most important things that you can have. I write down in my journal every day, I want what I have. And happy is the man who wants what he has, for he shall always have what he wants. I know it's a ridiculous statement, but it's really, really good. A gratitude mindset is being fully present, accepting what is. It's accepting what is right now. It doesn't mean you have to like it, but you accept it, that this is the way it is, and in the present moment, and then you set about changing it, being unconditionally grateful for what is. And it takes practice, it really does. But when you do have it, and you have this gratitude mindset, it's a transformative, absolutely transformative thing at a personal level. It really, really is. Instead of seeing problems and challenges, what you see, in fact, is the things that are good, that are working in your life, and then you address the other things and you move them along. And again, you'll remember I talked about my daily journal, the 3 things I'm grateful for. Every morning when I wake up and every night before I go to sleep, I go through all the things, I list them all that I'm grateful for. It is a transformative process, truly. I cannot recommend that to people if they're not familiar with it. Anybody who knows Ruse, the 4 agreements, to be impeccable with the word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. Wonderful, wonderful book, the 4 agreements. But I love this one. And we all think exceptionally, i.e. we think we're exceptional. We think that we are somehow unique and different. And we think that the world revolves around us. And of course, it doesn't. The world really is not at all aware of our existence and cares even less. So it's really important that we understand that the way we interpret what's happening, if we take things personally, 9 times out of 10, for example, when we interact with somebody in the world and we take something personally, it's got nothing to do with us. It's just a projection of their own reality, where they are, what's going on for them, and so on. So don't take anything personally. Nothing anybody says or does has anything to do with you. You decide yourself whether it is of value or not. I've already spoke about the whole idea of these keystone habits. And my personal motto is mens sana in corpore sano. You all are familiar with that, I'm sure. A sane mind in a healthy body. And I think the word I use here is integrity. Think integrity. Your world has to hang together. Spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, relational. It has to hang together. And if it doesn't hang together, if it's not aligned, you'll experience this. You know, it all has to be one. So a sane mind and a healthy body. So think about the various areas of development, like I say, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, and so on. Think about these areas and make sure that they are coherent, that they are aligned, that they are congruent. Because if they're not, you will experience this in terms of stress. And then the last comment here, build the habits that get you what you want. And I want to read this little quote. You're all familiar with it again, but I'll close with this comment. Watch your thoughts, for they become your words. Choose your words, for they become actions. Understand your actions, for they become habits. Study your habits, for they will become your character. And develop your character, for it becomes your destiny. So I sort of close with that. And I think the last comment I want to make on this is that a high performance mindset, to me, and building a high performance individual, building a high performance team, and building a high performance culture is about developing habits that build this. Simple habits, like 10 keys to creating a steadfast high performance mentality, a few magic bullets. These aren't hard or strange things. You don't need to go back to college to study any of these things. They're very, very simple and straightforward. And what you're doing is you're changing let me give you a simple example. I remember a long, long time ago giving up alcohol. And I found it very difficult because I loved my glass of wine. In fact, I loved my bottle of wine. But, I remember giving it up. And I realized the secret was that my glass of wine was a reward. And I got great pleasure from sitting back. It was very civilized. I'd sip my glass of wine. I'd enjoy it and think, yes, a nice reward. And I realized that when I tried to not drink, I needed something to reward me. I said, well, I'll go and I'll eat an apple. But I didn't feel particularly rewarded when I ate the apple, or I'd go for a run. I didn't feel particularly rewarded when I went for a run, until I did it repeatedly. And then I suddenly realized I came to a point in time where I formed a new habit, and I actually got pleasure from going for the run or eating the apple, as opposed to getting pleasure from drinking the glass of wine. So there is an educational process that's required here, I think, when you want to do this. It doesn't sort of happen on its own. Many, many years ago, when I was a young man, long time ago, I was living in France, and I subscribed to Deutsches Grammophon, and every week they sent me a new LP of classical music, because I used to listen to rock and roll, and I wanted to develop my ear. And every week a new LP would come. And I remember the first one that came, I couldn't understand the music at all. It sounded like noise to me. But after a few weeks, so I listened to it every day for a week, and then a new one came. I listened to it every day for a week, and so on. After a few months, I loved classical music. And after the year, I'd listen to pop music, and I'd say, oh my God, I can't listen to that. So jarring. So I re-educated my ear. And the same is true of what I've presented to you here. It's a re-education process that a person or a team or an organization can take to build new habits, one little step at a time. So then all of a sudden, that becomes their new life. That becomes their new way of doing things, as opposed to the old way. We've just replaced one habit with another. And my final comment is, if you think that you don't have habits, if you think you don't have an organizational culture, if you think you don't have a performance mentality of some shape, make or form, a high one or a low one, trust me, you do. You're just unaware of it. And what you need to do is develop the culture, develop the mentality that you actually want. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope that you found that of some value. What we discussed was the principles, if you wish, behind developing a high performance mindset at individual and team level. Specifically, we talked about the idea of habit formation, simple things that one can do over an extended period of time that is transformative of the individual and transformative of the team, in terms of taking ownership and responsibility, developing keystone habits, building a culture, if you wish, at an individual level and at a team level of high performance. And I think that, in summary, the one concept that I would like to leave with you is that willpower is a function of your blood sugar level. High performance over an extended period of time cannot be done by willpower. It's done by habit formation, developing the habits that will allow you to achieve the things that you really want to achieve, and making them part of the way that you operate. So thank you very much, everybody.